Well, here we are with Drill and Grill, where a food-loving, big-eating dentist interviews chefs, and we get to talk a little bit about SuperChef. So we're here today with Pat Combs, chef and owner of Mountain Laurel Events and Catering. Now, you're off to a good start with me because you've fed me here, Pat. Tell me a little bit about what I'm eating here because it is amazing.
Right now, you're looking at some fresh watermelon that's been compressed with ginger beer and lime zest.
And you kind of talked a little bit about compression. Explain what that means.
So in order to achieve that, you need a chamber vacuum sealer. And so it sucks the atmospheric pressure down to 99 to 100%. And then it completely injects or infuses all the flavors together. And as long as you put everything in the bag nice and neat, it comes out as those nice, neat cubes. And the rest is history.
It's literally like one of the best pieces of fruit I've ever eaten. It's amazing, and that goat cheese sets it off. So you might have to take a break for me to finish this. But that's kind of an interesting process. Tell me a little bit about your approach to kind of creating new foods. That sounds really scientific. I mean, is it a part creativity, part science? What sets you apart in that aspect from other chefs?
Oh, I don't know if I'm really set apart from other chefs, but my style is basically put stuff on the plate I like to eat. And I like thought-provoking menu items or maybe food pairings. And that might show through in my SuperChef menu.
Oh.
But for this isn't anything new. I just know that all the flavors went together and kind of put it together in an interesting way.
I like the way you teased us there a little bit with the SuperChef. Now, I know these menus are like top secret. Is there something that you do catering, right?
Correct.
So do you think that's an advantage for SuperChef where you're feeding 400 or 500 people?
With that being said, yeah, why not? A la carte or restaurant style service, things might change from time to time, but with catering, you deal with the bulk of things. So with that being mentioned, yeah, I think that would help out.
Are you going to take some risks with this thing, or are you kind of playing it safe? Do you have a strategy going into the SuperChef?
I have a strategy. I thought it through, of course, and some of the things might be risky, like I said, flavor pairings, or you might see an item in the dessert section that you might not typically see in something sweet. And that's where the thought-provoking, thing comes from. I want it to be interesting and fun, and not just the same thing you've seen on a menu for the past 30 years.
Got me thinking. You are a tease. You got me thinking about that dessert. I can't wait to see what everybody's doing. This is not your first rodeo when it comes to SuperChef, correct? You've done this before?
I have done it. Yeah.
So you probably know some of the other characters here that are competing. Do you feel like anybody's going to be your biggest competition?
I haven't thought about it in that sense. I'm showing up just to have fun.
Have a good time. So have you ever done anything other than catering? Have you ever worked in a restaurant, that sort
Absolutely.
of thing?
I've been in the industry since I was 14 or 15 years old and just kind of kept climbing the ranks. I've worked at anywhere from luxury resorts to hotels to my own catering company, colleges, and plenty of restaurants in between.
Why catering?
Why catering? It just kind of developed into... So the catering company is a birth child of my wife and I's.
Okay.
And so that really leads us to shape our business, shape when we do and don't do business, because we're a family. Nice. We're a family of 5, 3 young kids at home.
Oh, wow.
And so they're very active and busy, and they require a lot. And so it's easy for us to say, nope, we can't do anything that weekend, and just not schedule something. Now, if we were a restaurant that had open hours, it's just a lot of demand, a lot of, zero wiggle room when it comes to your personal time.
I never really thought about that. One of the things almost all of the chefs that are working in restaurants that we talked about is what a difficult industry it is, and from a scheduling perspective. The other thing that I feel like is a common thread is people get into this industry really young. How did you start? What was your inspiration along the way? What was your first job when you were 14?
Washing dishes at a local restaurant that's not around anymore. But after starting there, for whatever reason, I thought washing dishes in a restaurant would be super unique and fun and interesting. And I felt that way even more when I walked into the room of misfits and just characters. You know, there's a lot of unspoken communication and a lot of coordination that has to happen in those environments. And I just thought it was really interesting. It has a lot to do with creativity and just watching what's going on around you. And I just really dug that at a young age, and it stuck.
You know, one of the names that always comes up when we're doing these interviews is the Anthony Bourdain Kitchen Confidential. Mm-hmm. And you just said kitchen misfits, right? Mm-hmm. So they talk about that culture and how that's probably something that's home or comfortable for a lot of people that may not want a more rigid kind of sitting at a desk kind of thing.
Absolutely.
So that resonates with you?
100%. If I sat at a desk, I might not be able to get up at some point. Not out of choice.
So, and going back to that word misfits, the idea that, you know, some of these crazy things after a long night cooking and you know, that culture in the restaurant, what are some of the craziest things that you've experienced in a kitchen, you know, cooking late hours and doing all those things after a tough shift? You know,
I can't really reference any stories off the top of my head, but I can say that all those situations usually end up with a lot of camaraderie at the end of the day. And when you're able to gather as a team after you just went to war and back, there's just a lot of bonding that kind of happens there without trying. And just that's what I was all about.
You know, I love that idea. So I do the business side of things for our dental practice 3 days a week, but I still do dentistry 2 days a week. And the thing I love about it is you are really working with a team and in a service provider kind of industry. And, you know, now that I think about that, when my business days, I'm sitting at a computer, it's a heck of a lot lonelier than coming in. So I love that part of it. So Mountain Laurel in catering, that's your business, you and your wife.
Correct.
What's your wife's role with the company?
So I do a lot of the things back of the house, and she takes care of a lot of things front of the house. Everything from accounting to sales to, you know, direct clientele interaction, scheduling, a lot of different office things as well as on-site things.
Amazing. Now, was she in the restaurant industry or did you pull her in?
She was in the restaurant industry, and then when we lived together out of state, we both had jobs at a resort, and once we got serious, they moved her to the front office, the check-in type liaison and concierge type position, and she flourished just with that aspect of hospitality and accommodation, and she flourished in it. So that really led to us to where we are today. And paired with that, working at some really nice places really put our set of standards up high. And so we always strive to not be run-of-the-mill and just go the extra mile or two whenever we can.
Yeah, I'm looking at some of the dishes. I mean, this is beautiful. It's just something you whipped up here, but I'm looking at some of these dishes, and they are extraordinary. Just the presentation. They say you eat with your eyes, and I'm doing it right now. What are some of these really great places that you have an experience working at? There's
a spot out in Montana that I hold dear to me because it inspired me a lot. It's called the Resort at Paws Up. So it's a nice resort out in the wilderness, and they have like 38,000 acres or something, and with that they had different facets of food. So we would do everything from the backcountry food, where we'd have to dream up a menu and figure out how they can execute it 50 miles into the wilderness horseback, to the celebrities coming in the restaurant where the menu changes 40% every single day, to the family style restaurant where it was a little more casual but also upscale. And then, you know, just everywhere else in between. I've eaten at a lot of nice places because I believe in sitting on that side of the table. Okay. It leads to your experience wholeheartedly and thoroughly to the point to where it inspires you to show up the next day and do something different or think outside the box. And I just always loved that.
I love the idea that you are a consumer and you like to go out to eat. I think a lot of chefs don't have time to do that. So what's your favorite plate in Harrisburg area. If you have to go, what's your last meal?
Well, I'm a sucker for Vietnamese soup. It's called pho.
Yeah.
And, you know, there's nothing crazy fancy about it. It doesn't have to be, you know, one-of-a-kind meal, but it just really brings me back to home in a culinary sense. A nice warm broth, clear broth, with different accompaniments really set it off for me. And when I eat my pho, I like to add different ingredients like the Thai basil, cilantro, bean sprouts, kind of incrementally, so you'll always kind of have a little bit of a different bite.
Oh, wow. Interesting. So my family, our idea of a vacation was to go somewhere, eat breakfast, talk about what we were going to do for lunch, and then eat lunch, talk about what we were going to do for dinner. And we might go to Baltimore and hit Little Italy, or we might go to Philadelphia. Do you have a favorite restaurant city?
DC's pretty good.
Yes.
And New York City. My wife and I like to hop on the train and get up to New York. Just kind of take a snooze on the train and wake up in a different world, it seems, when you get out of the train station there.
Amazing. Yeah. So this is your business. Is this the first time you've owned the business you're cooking for?
That's correct. So that required a lot of learning on the fly and really figuring things out. But I like to lead instead of be a boss. Yeah. And so everything else really falls into place after that. You get a crew that respects you, or a crew that has that type of drive as well, that really wants to go the extra mile, and that's what really